more integrity anybody has, the more people will believe them. My name is Schaerr, and I am a practicing lawyer and also a part-time law professor. I was born in a little town in southern Utah called Kanab, Utah, and then my family moved to Salt Lake City when I was 5, and we lived there all through elementary school and junior high school, and it took a long time to get to Maryland. We moved to South Carolina for high school, and then I went back to Utah to BYU to college, and then while I was in college, I met my wife, who was also a BYU student, and ultimately we moved to New Haven, Connecticut, where I went to law school. And when we were about to finish law school, my wife and I just kind of asked ourselves, where would we like to live? And it was something we prayed about. And we asked the Lord, where do you want us to be? Where do you want us to raise our family? And after a great deal of prayer, we felt like the Washington, D.C. area. And then we got to know a lot of people and just stayed. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer while I was still in college, and I felt guided to do that. And I felt like being a lawyer would give me lots of opportunities to help other people and to accomplish some good in the world. And most of my career, probably two-thirds of my time when I initially started practicing law, I was representing big companies, and I felt good about that. I felt like if I can help big companies be more successful, they'll be able to hire more people and provide a good living for their employees. And so I thought that was useful work, and I enjoyed that. But there came a time about 8 years ago or so where I realized that most of it just involved kind of moving money around from one place to another, and that's a lot of what lawyers do. I decided that I wanted to do something that might be a little more valuable to society and to individuals, and so I was a partner and a senior leader in a very large law firm with a big. It was a nationwide law firm, but with a big office in downtown D.C. But I decided that I wanted to be able to spend more of my time working on some causes that were somewhat more important to me than helping big businesses succeed. One of those was that I wanted to help protect and advance religious freedom. I was blessed to have some very good mentors early on in my law practice. I spent a year working for just a wonderful man by the name of Ken Starr, who later became famous because he was the special counsel investigating President Clinton. But he was a very devout Christian. I then had the opportunity to work for a pretty famous judge by the name of Justice Antonin Scalia, who was a member of the U.S. Supreme Court, and he was a very devout Catholic, and he was very serious about his Catholic faith. But part of his Catholic faith was that as a judge, his highest obligation was to the Constitution, and even if he didn't like the result that the Constitution demanded in a particular case, he felt obligated to follow it. He believed that as a judge, he didn't have the right to impose his own will on the people of the United States, that his only job was to interpret and apply the laws that they had passed, including the Constitution, and that it would be a breach of his duty as a judge and as a Christian to try to impose his own will. And now in the United States, we have a particular blessing in that our whole system of laws, we believe, was inspired by our Father in heaven. We know from our scriptures that our Constitution, our federal Constitution, was inspired of God, that he led the people who created our Constitution to do that. Now that doesn't mean that every every sentence in it is perfect or was dictated by him, but we do believe that those who framed our Constitution were acting in significant part under inspiration from our Father in heaven. And then when I first started law practice, I had the opportunity to work side by side with a man by the name of Rex Lee, who was the first dean of the law school at BYU and was later the president of BYU. But he was a practicing lawyer for for many years while he was teaching at the law school, and I got to work with him, a very devout member of our faith, who taught me, among other things, that that striving to be a devoted disciple of Jesus Christ was entirely consistent with being a successful lawyer. And so I've tried to develop my law practice in that same way, and I have found that to be true, that the more diligent I am at trying to be a good and faithful disciple of Jesus Christ, the better advocate I am. There's great joy when you're in any profession in feeling like you are where the Lord wants you to be and you're doing the things that he wants you to do. I've seen the gospel in action in my life, and this is my story.